to my birthday. I'm 69, so I'm supposed to learn 7 years.
Yeah, the healing of your
Yeah. And then supposed to do rabbis.
Good Tavach, everyone. A good week. Welcome. A new week, new life. In Tanya, we have done 34 chapters till this point. A brief review. Chapters 1 through 8 teach us about who we are.
Okay.
Who are we? Well, we got two elements. We have a godly soul and we have an animal soul. And we got to know it a bit. Chapters 9 through 17 taught us of how we can have dominion, mastery over the animal soul through a lengthy path of mind having dominion over the heart is the basic idea. That the mind can have control over the heart's desires. And we can do the exact opposite of what our heart wants us to do when we know what the right thing is to do, what God wants from us. That was 9 through 17. Then we went through 18 through 25 that taught us a closer way on how we can achieve self-mastery, and that is through the hidden love that is in the soul. Hidden because we need to expose it. But it's not distant because it's an inherited part of us that it naturally in its makeup wants only connection and not being disconnected. It's not a logical thing. It's just the nature of the divine soul. It just wants to be a part of its source in the divine above and not to be disconnected from it. So that taught us on how we can have the mastery. And the truth is, Tanya, in that respect, could finish right there at the end of chapter 25. But then we went through 26 through 34, teaching us on how to have joy in our lives. Yeah. Why do we need joy? What do you mean? You have mind dominion over the heart. It's because in order that your mind can have dominion over the heart, or that you can reveal the hidden love of your soul, and that it should be lived with, exposed, if you don't have joy in your life, you'll never deal with life's struggles properly. You'll always give in to your lower base nature, the animal soul. With joy, right? Joy, as we explained, many levels of it, it will then bring you to able to struggle, to battle day in, day out with the things that we struggle with. And to win that battle, again, based on the godly soul having the capacity to overcome the animal soul. That's what we've learned till now. Mm-hmm. Welcome to Tanya Today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zech and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya, beginning chapter 35. So the Alter Rebbe introduces here to have a deeper understanding of what it means, la soisei, to do it. The bottom line, right, from the opening verse in the title page, Kikar v'adavar elecha ma'od, that this thing is very close to you, meaning your relationship with God, Torah and mitzvahs, right? It's very close to you. Beficha, in your mouth, meaning in how you communicate. Bilvavcha, in your heart, which means your thoughts, right? Speech and thought. And then finally, lasaisa, to do. Action, exactly. It's close, right? So we need further elucidation on this idea. Till now, we just spoke about it as being a garment of expression of the soul, that when you reveal either mind over the heart or the hidden love that the soul has, that it will dominate the individual, right, their higher, greater self over their lower self, and have mastery over your thoughts, over your speech, and over your actions. But now we want to illuminate or give more understanding of this idea of action in particular, right? The mitzvahs that we do that are action oriented, we want to have a deeper understanding of this concept. And why we want to do that is because we need to also understand what's the purpose of creating a Beinoni. Now follow over here. Over here. Follow over here. So then we will get clearer on what the question is. All right. What's the question? What do you mean the purpose of it? We learned in chapter 14 that a Beinoni will never become a tzaddik, a righteous person. Meaning, there'll always be a struggle and never graduating to becoming a righteous individual. So what is the purpose of this constant struggle that you can never overcome? And you always have to struggle. And you can't become the righteous person who doesn't struggle, because the righteous person is an individual who, in their heart, doesn't have any negativity and therefore isn't struggling with it. They did struggle with it. They overcame it and became righteous, but they no longer. But the Beinoni is such an individual who is incapable of becoming that righteous person. That's who we are. We're not going to become righteous, right? Just, to put it out there. So, but the question is, okay, meaning you're never going to banish the animal inclination in your heart. The only thing that you will ever be able to do is to overcome it in the struggle, that you won't give into it in your thought, speech, and action, in the garments of self-expression, that you won't, as we've learned, right? Fine. But why would God create a soul to come into this world, to struggle like this, and not to be able to overcome it? Not to be able to vanquish it, especially when we understand. So, you might say, well, you have a godly soul and an animal soul, right? Like in a wrestling match, you've got two opponents. So if the good guy is always beating up the bad guy, so okay, you always won, right? Because you got the good guy on this side of the ring and the bad guy on this side of the ring, and the good guy always wins. But the Rebbe says no. That's if they were two distinct and separate beings, but they're not. They're meshed together in one person. We're not psychotic, right? We're not like, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. We might act that way sometimes, doing right or wrong, but that's not the notion over here. The notion over here is that the animal soul and the godly soul are intertwined in such a way that it's suggesting that it's not just about defeating the animal soul, but it's about transforming the animal soul. But who can transform the animal soul? The righteous, the tzaddik. The Beinoni is not transforming that animal soul. So if that's the case, if they were like meant to be two opposing beings, but they're not, they're intertwined, one together with the other, right? So since they're intertwined, what the Alter Rebbe is saying is, it is telling us that there has to be some kind of transformation. Where is that transformation? That's the question. We're not going to get the answer today. But that's where we're going with this, to appreciate then the purpose of the Beinoni, that he does do transformation, but in a different manner than the righteous. The righteous transforms the inner depths of their being. The Beinoni transforms something that's not the inner depths of their being, but on the outside of their being and in the outside of the world too. And that's their purpose, where their purpose lies. And that's why they remain a Beinoni, right? But what that means, we're not going to explain today. But in order to understand this, the Alter Rebbe introduces something from the Zohar. The Zohar comments and says, quoting the Yenuka, and we're only going to get the quote today. The explanation of it will be in forthcoming classes. The Zohar comments and says, based on the verse that it says, King Solomon said in Ecclesiastics, that the wise man's eyes are in his head. Got it?
Yep.
The Zohar comments, where else should their eyes be? Like, obviously your eyes are in your head, right? Like, what? And only the wise men? So the response is to that we've learned that it should not go 4 cubits bareheaded, right? Cover your head. Why? Why don't you go 4 cubits? 4 cubits is a cubit. 1.5 foot. Don't go 6 feet with your head uncovered. Why? Because the Shekhinah, the divine presence of God, rests upon the head. Okay? Therefore, since that's the reality, the Shekhinah rests upon the head, right? Divine presence of God. So since that's the reality, what's a wise person? Their eyes in their head, meaning their eyes. Where do your eyes go?
In front of your head.
No, where do your eyes go? Where your concern is. No, where your concern is, right? So in your middle of prayers, I'm speaking to myself now, eyes should be only in the book. That's where your concern is. Your concern is to pray. So eyes in the book, right? When you're learning, so your eyes should be to the teacher who's teaching. That's where your concern is, right? If you're taking care of your child or taking care of someone, so your eyes are upon the one you're concerned with, right?
Yep.
So the idea of eyes over here is a figure of speech, meaning where your concern is, where your interest lies. That's where your eyes go. Okay? That's why your eyes, when you're in a public domain, in in a warm climate where people don't dress modestly. So God forbid that someone has interest in a place where there is immodesty, not good. That's not a wise person. A wise person has interest and concern where they should be. So right now it's here. So what is the wise person? His interest is on his head. Why? Because that's where the Shekhinah is. A wise person always wants to make sure that the Shekhinah, the divine presence of God, is overhead. That's why their eyes are in their head. Their interest is in their head, that the Shekhinah should abide upon them. Got that?
But you're not looking at your eyes aren't upon your head. You're not like looking in a mirror at your head. If your eyes are your interest, how can they be looking at your head?
Because your interest, sir, is over your head. Your interest doesn't mean your physical eyes looking.
Oh, okay. It's a
metaphor. It's a metaphor, we said, right? It's a metaphor that your interest, your concern should be that the Shekhinah, right? A wise person's concern, eyes in their head, means that their concern is the Shekhinah, the divine presence of God, should be overhead.
Yep.
Okay? Focus, exactly. So, therefore, you must know that you have to kindle lights in order to have the light of the Shekhinah, right? The Shekhinah is the light of God, so you have to kindle a light. And with what do you kindle light with? Oil. So therefore, where is your concern going to be? That there should be no lack of oil, as King Solomon cried out. Make sure that there's no lack of oil above your head, because light, the light of God, the Shekhinah, requires oil. What's oil a metaphor? Good deeds, mitzvahs. For mitzvahs. This was the reason why the wise man's eyes are in his head, to make sure that there's never a lack of good deeds, in order that the light of God should be upon the individual. And that's the end of the quotation of the Zohar. We're going to take this apart, forthcoming classes, to understand the depth of this metaphor. What will this teach us? That if you want to have the divine presence of God, you need acts of good deeds. That's where we're going with this. And this will then give us an understanding of what? What will this give an understanding? Of the purpose of the Beinoni. The purpose of the Beinoni, right? Who's entangled godly soul and animal soul. The purpose of the righteous, the entanglement is in order to
Inspire?
no, subdue, not just subdue, transform the evil, not subdue,
Yeah.
not subdue.
That's the benefit.
That's the
the
Beinoni.
Oh.
The tzaddik transforms it,
You
right?
can't do it anymore.
So there is no more evil, right? The Beinoni can't do that. So what's his purpose? So his purpose is, from this metaphor, we will tease it out, and we'll see that their purpose is a different purpose that has to do with doing acts of mitzvahs. More to come. Reminder, tonight, 6:30, Torah studies, followed by TRC at 8 o'clock. And if we should get distracted, what should you do? Okay, refocus. If you can't transform the animal and you can best beat it and do mitzvahs, isn't that enough to be considered our purpose? Yeah, that's where we're going, but that's where we're going with this, but that's not explaining it. Yes, that's where we're going.
So then it seems like the tzaddik has no purpose.
No, you mean after he transformed himself? Well, don't worry.
To be continued.
This is, what's the name of this book?
Beinoni?
Sefer Shel Beinanim. It's a book of the Beinanim. So this is a book of the righteous? No.
They have their own book.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Huh?
Huh?
You have to be born tzaddik, or
No, with the capacity to become, right. When Mashiach comes, will everybody be transformed? Yes. Yes, yes.
Speedily.
Amen.
Struggle.
All right. Folks, Rambam. Come and join us. Laws of idolatry.
Oh boy.
I'm
Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you, Chabad Zurich and Kadesh, Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and pleasure to share with you Tanya. A reminder, 6:30 tonight. Come and join us for the Parsha, Torah study.